During the Korean War from 1950 to 1953, the US dropped infected insects over North Korea and China, which resulted in outbreaks of smallpox again, as smallpox seems to be a popular weapon by the US Army. And there were sudden outbreaks of cholera, the plague, and meningitis. All these virus outbreaks were very unusual, just as what's happening today with the Wu flu pharaonic bug. Same story. And in fact, insects were found in 1951 in North Korea that carried these deadly viruses: the smallpox, cholera, the plague, and meningitis. As the North Koreans had enough blankets of themselves, so they didn't have to give them just like they did to the Indians, then the United States Air Force emptied loads of infected insects over the indigenous population instead. Well, what was America doing there in the first place, in a country far away, which is not theirs, aggressing on other people? Well, we all know that through the paperclip, the Nazis left Germany and Europe, and they came into the United States, taking over key positions and all that. And they just continue to do what they do best. I believe the Chinese. I mean, the proofs are all there. And yeah, the allegations. It has been proven now. So smallpox here. This has happened with the little Asian children. There was cholera. Yeah. Even the bubonic plague and meningitis, all made in America, made in USA. In the very same year of 1951, the Swiss Octagon and their CIA poisoned the entire French town of Le Pont Saint-Esprit with Swiss-made LSD, killing many people. I visited Le Pont Saint-Esprit in this video here, on my channel GRACIAS, so this video here. The title is Remote Control Terrorists and CIA, all the rest. And also I made this video here, Le Pont Saint-Esprit, MK Ultra, also about this town here. I had another video, but it got deleted by the YouTube censorship. Here you can read in the 1951 Pont Saint-Esprit, it's all from 1951, they were very active, even in America, in San Francisco. And here you can read about it, the mass poisoning. Got poisoned with LSD in exactly the same time when the CIA was experimenting on LSD, with LSD, concerning the MK Ultra brainwashing experiment. And even on their own people, the US Army used biological weapons, thus killing many Americans, which also happened in the year 1951. I guess 1951 was a busy bioweapon year for the US Army. Korea, France, San Francisco, and whatnot. I'll read it for you. In 1950, so also 1951, the US released a bioweapon in San Francisco. This was one of hundreds of bioweapon simulations carried out in the 1950s and 1960s. This case of using bioweapons inside the US on American citizens has been officially confirmed by the US military. They finally had to. So it's clear who exactly is behind the other cases in Korea, France and China. December 2019, the Wu flu. The army code of the attack in San Francisco was Operation Sea Spray. When from 1950 to 1960 at 293 different places in the United States of America. The US Army released infected clouds of bacteria and viruses over entire American cities, killing many people and leaving hundreds of thousands very sick, like in 1950 in San Francisco. So here it says here how the US government tested biological warfare on America. Well, I'll let you read it. I'll just take out a couple of things here. Yeah, it says biological warfare, but you better read everything, eh? The film will get too long if I would. So I just punch pause in the film. So I'll just read you this part here. San Francisco's bacteria fiasco. A confidential government report written in 1951. There we go again, 1951. Special report number 142, biological warfare trials at San Francisco, California, the 20th until 27th September 1950. Maps out the details of the city's top secret bacteria bombing. Through the tests, officials sought to accomplish three objectives: to study the offensive possibilities of attacking a seaport city with a biological warfare aerosol, to highlight the vulnerability of the country's defense against such attacks, and to gain data on how bacteria affected a population. So I mean, you know, if they try this out 1950 on the even on their own citizens, of course they're going to use it, you know, and which they did in Korea in 1951 and in France 1951. Nowhere in the report was the welfare of San Franciscans mentioned. The tests proceeded without knowledge or consent from the public. On the 20th, just 3 days after the 49ers made their NFL debut, the US Army was deployed to San Francisco and began secretly showering the city with bacteria. Over a course of 8 days, a ship puttered along the shoreline of the bay, releasing massive clouds of 2 different pathogens, both of which were supposedly non-pathogenic, yet realistic simulants that might be used in an attack. In total, 6 experimental warfare attacks were carried out, 4 with Bacillus globigi and 2 with Serratia marcescens. You know, Serratia, there's the word Sar in it, king. Marcescens, it's mer, for, you know, a pyramid. Bacillus is ba, it's the soul when you're dead. It's full of pharaonic words. So Serratia marcescens, known for its blood red coloration, is one of 2 bacteria sprayed over San Francisco in 1950. The army blasted these chemicals in a 30-minute spurt, producing huge clouds up to 2 miles in length, then proceeded to collect and assess dozens of samples of various collection spots across the city. As noted in the report, various aspects of each of the 6 tests were scrupulously monitored. The time, the temperature, the wind speed, the humidity, but the most important factor seemed to be brushed over: the well-being of the people being sprayed. The samples collected yielded counts that gave some indication of how much bacteria was being inhaled. According to Leonard Cole, author of the biological warfare book Clouds of Secrecy, it was quite a bit. Nearly all of San Francisco received 500 particle minutes per liter. In other words, nearly every one of 800,000 people in San Francisco exposed to the cloud. 1 million people got sick, people. 800,000 people in San Francisco exposed to the cloud at normal breathing rate, which is 10 liters per minute. Inhaled 5,000 or more particles per minute during the several hours that they remained airborne. Since the Army's bacteria presented similar dosage patterns, he continues, San Francisco residents were inhaling millions of bacteria and particles every day during the week of the testing. San Francisco residents' safety was wholly brushed over in the report, which promptly concluded it's entirely feasible to attack a seaport city with biological warfare aerosol, well, which they, of course, they did in Korea. There's a lot of coastline in Korea, and you can read here a lot of people started coughing and they got sick. Even people died. Many people died. I mean, the There's still the okay, so I'm looking for the, okay, here the aftermath. San Francisco's incident, they call it an incident, was just one of 293 bacterial attacks staged by the United States government in America between 1950 and 1969. It was neither the most heinous nor the deadliest. So in 1955, as an experiment, between brackets, the CIA sprayed whooping cough bacteria over Tampa Bay, Florida. Whooping cough cases in the area subsequently increased from 339 and 1 death in 1954 and 12 deaths in 1955. This is just tip of the iceberg, eh? And probably hundreds of thousands of people died, and they don't even talk about the homeless. But no hard evidence has ever surfaced linking the two incidents. No, of course not. It's the government. The government can't condemn the government, eh? In an infamous 1966 test, federal agents crushed light bulbs containing trillions of bacteria on the New York subway, exposing thousands of rush hour commuters. The government never followed up to see how many people fell ill. Before a crowd at Fort Detrick in 1969, that's where they make all this stuff. Well, and so on and so forth. Hey. So who's behind the Wu flu, people? Are you going to believe what the media wants to make you believe, all the time? That the Chinese are building up their army, they're so dangerous, and they do this crazy... Don't believe the media, people. If the media show a thing like this, and the media lie, then just take the opposite of it. And then you get the truth. So the truth is, China doesn't do these things. The history is telling you, and these are facts, yeah? That the US government, so I don't say the Americans anymore, because most of the American people are okay. They're more than okay. But they should stand up against this and don't believe all the fairy tales of the media and President Bush and President Biden and the rest of these puppeteers. The US government has no problems in testing and using bioweapons on Americans, eventually killing them under excruciating pains, making it further clear who is behind the lethal poisoning of Special FBI agent Tom O'Loughlin, as the US government has confirmed to poison their own people with various bioweapons and cancer-creating poisons. So here you see in the picture Tom O'Loughlin, Kennedy's man of the SEXA detachment. And here again, Kennedy's FBI man, Tom O'Loughlin, being TDY in the Pentagon, trying to find the military connections responsible for the opium imports from Southeast Asia into the USA by the military and the CIA. So they poisoned the good man and they killed his boss in the White House too. In order for the Octagon to sell all the drugs from Southeast Asia, from South America and from Afghanistan, it needed a whole bunch of young and stupid consumers and a marketing strategy. So the nobility's ever and ever increasing offspring could also get rich and parasite on it. So it needed propaganda with fun and laughter to open the mental door, with good music to open the mental door even broader, and with easy sex to open the physical and moral door, in order to get the youth prepared both mentally and physically for extensive drugs consume and pay for the product, which got known under the name of sex, drugs and rock and roll of the hippie era, a word Pharaoh's media and social engineering had already prepared, repeating it all the time. Back then, the daily narrative was Vietnam War, drugs and music. Today, 2022, The narrative is chaos, end times, the antidote, and the bug war. This technique is called repetitive political indoctrination through PSYOP and social engineering. So the octagon of the Nazi Templars ordered their military-industrial complex to have the drugs program executed and trap the people's youth using this wicked strategy. Because the drugs industry is an important branch of the military-industrial complex. Therefore, the military-industrial complex had their elite children taught various new musical instruments, like electric guitars and electric pianos, and set up all the recording studios in and around Laurel Canyon in Los Angeles, where all the military sons and daughters came and live as well in and around Laurel Canyon, and became the angels of death, like the unseen Pied Piper. Therefore, the father of Jim Morrison of the Doors was a US Navy admiral who was there at the Tonkin Gulf accident, conveniently leading to the Vietnam War by the Octagon's Admiral George Stephen Morrison. By the way, his son, the famous Jim Morrison of the Doors, called himself the Lizard King, and I can do anything. And you'll remember the half-open door I filmed in that creepy Templar commandery, which you can see in this video here on the same channel. The doors, with music and laughter, they open up your inner door, and even your inner doors into drugs, abusive sex, addiction, and satanic rituals. The doors. This is what they mean with it, the doors. Here's the title, here on my channel, the same channel. So, here you can read it in Wikipedia. George Stephen Morrison, United States Navy, a Rear Admiral, Gulf of Tonkin incident. He was the father of Jim Morrison. Oh, there he is. Well, the eyes are the same, look at that. And I'll put it in the links for you in the description. Yeah, the personal life. Morrison met and married Clara Virginia Clark in Hawaii in 1942. Their son Jim Morrison, later lead singer of rock band The Doors, was born in late 1943 in Melbourne, Florida, where they lived at the time while stationed at Naval Air Station Melbourne. They also had a daughter, and so forth. It's all the hippie movement, the music, it was all by the military industrial complex. Frank Zappa, he once said, politics is the entertainment division of the military industrial complex. Well, how come a musician is saying these sort of things? Music and military industrial complex, it doesn't really fit together, does it now? Well, that's because Frank Zappa's father was a chemical warfare specialist in the CIA's MK-Ultra brainwashing program. So, they feel so sure of themselves, and also because humanity is really so stupid. They can just rub it into our eyes, rub it into our faces. They can say whatever they want, and people will not wake up. Here, this is Wikipedia on Frank Zappa, which is an Italian, a Sicilian name. So, yeah. Childhood. Zappa was born on December 21st. Winter solstice. The magic. 1940 in Baltimore, Maryland. His mother, Rose Marie, born Collymore, was of Italian, Neapolitan and Sicilian and French ancestry. His father, whose name was anglicized to Francis Vincent Zappa, was an immigrant from Partinico, Sicily, with Greek and Arab ancestry. Oh, you can see that, eh? Frank, the eldest of 4 children, was raised in an Italian-American household where Italian was often spoken by his grandparents. The family moved often because his father, a chemist and mathematician, worked in the defense industry. After a time in Florida in the 1940s, the family returned to Maryland, where Zappa's father worked at the Edgewood Arsenal Chemical Warfare. Wow, there we go, eh? Chemical warfare. He was probably also in it, you know, doing the attack on San Francisco and in France and Korea. And so the Edgewood Arsenal Chemical Warfare Facility of the Aberdeen Proving Ground, run by the US Army. Yeah, that's the same. Due to their home's proximity to the arsenal, which stored mustard gas, gas masks were kept in the home in case of an accident. So you say his father is Sicilian. So here we are back to the Mafia and CIA connection. It's everywhere, you know. And they don't talk, of course, about the Alps and the Octagon. So here you can see Frank Zappa's father from Partinico, Sicily. Here's a picture. No, yes it does. And so here you can see someone born in the land of the Mafia and where the most Templar commanderies are in the world, and who started to work for the CIA and the Octagon. This is not a coincidence, no. Frank Zappa's manager, Herb Cohen, was an ex-US Marine, and he was in Africa's Congo working for the CIA, somehow involved in the killing of the Congo's leftist Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba. Here you can see Cohen was born in New York after a period in the army, and he was the manager of Frank Zappa and the rest of them here. So he was not only a negotiator for the famous rock stars of the military-industrial complex, but here, Herb Cohen, he was also a negotiator for the Department of State, the FBI, the CIA, and the US Department of Justice. Patrice Lumumba, and he was killed in 1961. There's a good faith, you know. The Octagon, they make sure they murder all the good people. Especially presidents and John F. Kennedy and everything. Yeah. So the 2001 report by the Belgian Commission describes, this is about the United States involvement, it describes previous US and Belgian plots to kill Lumumba. Among them was a Central Intelligence Agency sponsored attempt to poison him. You remember Tom O'Loughlin? They poisoned people. So this is a fact that they poison people, even their own people. And the US President Dwight Eisenhower, a Swiss Eisenhower, authorized the assassination of Lumumba in 1960. However, the plot to poison him was abandoned. The CIA chemist Sidney Gottlieb, he says God loves him. It means God and love. What a name for a guy using poisons for the CIA. A key person in the plan devised a poison resembling a toothpaste. And in September 1960, Gottlieb brought a vial of the poison to the Congo, probably with the help of this negotiator Herb Cohen, negotiating for the rock groups and for the CIA, with plans to place it on Lumumba's toothbrush. The plot was abandoned, allegedly because Larry Devlin, CIA station chief for the Congo, refused permission. well, and so on. I mean, the CIA they are deep in it. In 1975, the Church Committee, oh, who's that? They're also in it. Went on record with the finding that CIA Chief Alan Dulles had ordered Lumumba's assassination as an urgent and prime objective. The committee later found that while the CIA had sponsored to kill Lumumba, it was not directly involved in the murder. Oh, really? In 2013, you see, it's still going on. You know, it happened in 1961, and they're still not the end of it. Because they hide it. All these government criminals, CIA and the Octagon, Swaziland, they hide things, you know. The US State Department admitted that President Eisenhower authorized the murder of Lumumba. However, documents released in 2017, I mean, this is 5 years ago, revealed that an American role in Lumumba's murder was only under consideration by the CIA. CIA Chief Alan Dulles had allocated $100,000, which was a lot more in those days, to accomplish the act. Well, they're deeply involved in it. It's the Octagon, they use everything, the Mafia, the hippie movement, it's all one thing. Frank Zappa's wife, Gail Zappa, maiden name Adelaide Slootman, was together with Jim Morrison in kindergarten, and her father, from a long line of US naval officers, was a nuclear weapons researcher in the US Navy. It says in Wikipedia. So this is Gail Zappa. You know, they're all one big family. All pharaohs. All their parents are high officers, admirals and generals. Adelaide Gail Slootman was born in Philadelphia to John Klein Slootman. Klein, it means small. A German or a Swiss German name. Who was a second-generation German-American and nuclear physicist with the United States Navy. And Laura Freitas was born in Honolulu of Portuguese ancestry. That's probably the mother. So he was a nuclear physicist in the United States Navy. I mean, that's not nothing. These are high officers and in MK Ultra, nuclear physicists, etc. So he was second generation. Okay. Yeah, this is in Laurel Canyon. Gail Zappa. So she died. And born Adelaide Gail Slootman in 1945. She grew up in California and reportedly attended kindergarten with Jim Morrison of the Doors. Her father, who was a nuclear weapons researcher, relocated the family to London during her teenage years. John Phillips from the Mamas and the Papas. His father was the US Marine Captain Claude Andrew Phillips of the Military Intelligence Complex. So here you see the Mamas and the Papas, the music group from the hippie era, and here we'll see his father, early life. Phillips was born August 30, 1935 in Parris Island, South Carolina. His father, Claude Andrew Phillips, was a retired United States Marine Corps officer and who later went into the Military Intelligence Complex. And Phillips even went to the United States Naval Academy. Oh, look at this. It has 2 times the faces, you know, the whole bundle together. It means where we go one, we go all. And so how come all these musicians, I mean, music is about love, they were singing about love, how come they were all in military academies, their fathers were generals and admirals, how come, eh? Well, this is Octagon. They use any means, you know, to get money, to parasite on us, to influence us, to manipulate us, and to rule the world. I mean, in a way, they ruled the world with music in these years. It influenced billions of people, and still does. It's all in the names, like the doors, as I've shown you before, of the Templar Commandery, those doors, and the mamas and the papas, because all the 60s musicians, their mamas and papas, were in the military. Otherwise, it's quite a strange name for a pop band, huh? Especially in this era where they were rather advocating not to make any children at all, you know, and to have free sex, have fun all your life, and the worst thing that can happen to you is have a baby. So, you know, why the mamas and the papas? Well, because they were making children, only the rest of us didn't anymore. It's all a setup. John Phillips' wife, Susie Adams, and sister Rosie, so Rosie Phillips, the sister of John Phillips, they both worked in the Pentagon. And Susie Adams was a descendant of US President John Adams. Well, they're all one family. And they sing for us. Wow. Enough charming ladies in the Pentagon to offer FBI agent Thomas O'Loughlin a poisoned cup of coffee filled with cancer-provoking agents in it, with Frank Zappa's father a chemical warfare specialist. Now, remember, the Octagon members of this conspiracy all had their children living in Laurel Canyon, so they all knew each other, including the parents who had set it all up in the first place, those mamas and papas, right? So apparently this is John Phillips, and this here is the military connection. And after leaving Annapolis, so it's about John Phillips, this is John Phillips here. After leaving Annapolis, John married Susie Adams, working for the Pentagon, and a descendant of a US president. A direct descendant of the founding father, John Adams. Susie's father, James Adams Jr., had been involved in what Susie described as cloak and dagger stuff with the Air Force in Vienna. Was that Vienna, Austria? Or what we like to call covert intelligence operations. Susie herself would later find employment at the Pentagon. Of course, her father found her a job, huh? Alongside John Phillips' older sister, Rosie, also got a job in the Pentagon. It's just one family. It's like working in a pizza restaurant. Oh yeah, I've got a brother, you know, a small brother, he can cut up the pizzas or cut up the tomatoes, yeah. But these guys, they cut up something else which is red. Who dutifully reported to work at the complex for nearly 30 years. So you see, you know, that the sister of John Adams, of the mamas and the papas, and these papas and mamas all working for the military-industrial complex, she worked 30 years for the Pentagon. And you believe it when they're singing about love? Come on, people. John's mother, Dean Phillips, also worked for most of her life for the federal government in some unspecified capacity. And John's older brother, Tommy, was a battle-scarred former US Marine who found work as a cop on the Alexandria police force, albeit one with a disciplinary record for exhibiting a violent streak when dealing with people of color. Oh, a charming family, isn't it? Here, there's some more about Naval Station here. Well, they made nice music. I mean, otherwise they couldn't have sold it, you know, the whole program. This is Mackenzie Phillips, probably his sister or his wife. These are the this is the Pentagon girls, eh? Wow. Did Special Agent O'Loughlin find out something too much, like the Pentagon setting up the hippie movement, since he was TDY working at the Pentagon with a special assignment to investigate the connection between the drugs trade and the military-industrial complex? Now, you be a good boy, Mr. O'Loughlin, and drink up your coffee while it's still warm. You're in the Pentagon, Mr. O'Laughlin, so you don't have to worry. All the doors are closed and guarded. SUBSTACK, meaning Special Assistant for Counterintelligence and Special Activities. When does a soldier become expendable, eh? Well, if so, you just invite him for a cup of coffee, the so-called Judas cup. So this is Mama Cass Elliot, another singer of the Mamas and the Papas, and she was born Ellen Naomi Cohen, just like the other Herb Cohen, the CIA guy and manager of Frank Zappa. Across Mama Cass Elliott's home were murdered Abigail Folger and Wojtek Frykowski by the Manson family, is what they say. John spent time in Havana, so John Phillips of the Mamas and the Papas, in the era of the Cuban Missile Crisis. So there's a lot of peculiar coincidences in all this hippie era with fathers and mothers of the military industrial complex. Too many. It's all related to war, MK Ultra, blood. And Ellen Naomi Cohen was born in Baltimore, Maryland in 1941, the daughter of Bess née Levine and Philip Cohen. All four of her grandparents were Russian jaywalker immigrants. And she died very young. Her death. That night, Elliot, aged 32, died in her sleep at the London flat where she was staying. A heart failure. You know, the death was the autopsy. The forensic pathologist, they said it was a heart failure. Typical CIA stuff, eh? Maybe she got remorse. And 4 years later, the Who's drummer Keith Moon died in the same room. And he was also 32. So many unbelievable coincidences. And every time there's a connection with the army. And death and murder. Just look at this hippie symbol popping up all over. All of a sudden and seemingly out of nowhere. But heavily boosted by Pharaoh's media. This so-called peace symbol does not stand for peace at all, but it means square and compass. We Freemasons have it all under control. The circle represents the compass and concept of 3, because with a compass one makes a circle. And inside the circle is a 90-degree square and concept of 4. We are the concept of 4 and trapped by them inside the concept of 3. The square is inside the circle, and the square is divided into 2 parts for male and female in this hippie era of sexual equality revolution. So here, this is exactly 90 degrees. So when you see 90 degrees and you say, well, you know enough, you know? And there's a circle for the compass. So we are the concept of 4, the square, and we're trapped in the circle. Male and female, all together, and they're equal. The parts are equal for male and female. Stephen Stills of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young was raised at US military bases in Central America. And he had a song called Bluebird, as in the MK Ultra program Bluebird, with Project Bluebird in 1951. There we are again, 1951. They were very busy. And they still are, people. There he is, Stephen Stills, the famous musician. He looks a bit like Alex Jones. And here is song Bluebird, number 7. Another one of their coincidences. And here in Wikipedia, Stephen Stills. And oh, he's got a French wife, Véronique Sanson. He's a so-called political activist. I'll forget it. Here, the early years. Stills was born in Dallas, and he was raised in a military family, it says. He moved around as a child and developed an interest. He was also influenced by Latin music, and spending his youth in Costa Rica, the Panama Canal Zone, and he attended the Admiral Farragut Academy. It was a military academy. Another one. David Crosby's father was Major Floyd Delafield Crosby of the Military Intelligence and Annapolis Naval Academy graduate. The Crosby family produced U.S. senators, congressmen, governors, mayors, judges, Civil War generals, Declaration of Independence signers, and if America had royalty, he would be a duke or a prince. And well, as I've proven you now, America is still being ruled by the nobility. So here you can see the singer, very famous, David Crosby, here a bit older. And his father was a relative of the Van Rensselaer family, and and his mother, granddaughter of Bishop of Pittsburgh, Cortland Whitehead, descended from the prominent Van Cortland family. And here, if you look at the Rensselaer family, you see a coat of arms, with 3 crowns, 3 octagon stars. There's a Swiss cross or a Maltese cross, and there are 3 Templar V's. 3 is, of course, the concept of 3, which is them. And in the sort of castle thing, like here, there's the concept of 4 on top and the concept of 3 below. Well, if you look at it in white, it's the concept of 3 on top, which is them, and the concept of 4 below. But if you look at it in red, it's the other way around, altogether making 7. And it says here, his father was a filmmaker, Floyd Crosby, here. So he was also in the propaganda business, and to change our heads. So here's his father, Floyd Delafield Crosby, a major, ASC, filmmakers. And he was the father of the musician David Crosby. There you go. And the Rensselaer family, the nobility. This is about his career. He did a lot of movies, Hollywood movies. So he's definitely part of the social engineering. I mean, it changed humanity, all these Hollywood films. Right? And he was in the U.S. Army Air Corps, making videos and flight training films in World War II. And this is, of course, quite near to this is social engineering. This is also used for intelligence, video making and filming enemy positions and all that. Major. Again, the military-industrial complex. And the hippie movement and the hippie music of the 60s, it was a very big industry. And so it's part of the military-industrial complex. The musician Jackson Browne was born in a military hospital in Heidelberg, Germany. And his father was in the OSS and precursor of the CIA. So here's the famous musician. They're all pictures showing them a little bit older. And here you can see. So Browne was born in 1948 in Heidelberg, Germany. So if there's an American, like getting born in Germany, there's this military family. Where his father, Clyde Jack Browne, an American serviceman, was stationed for his job assignment with the Stars and Stripes newspaper. So that's, of course, it's propaganda, and it's very near. It would be a good camouflage for an agent, you know, to work at the Stars and Stripes. And of course, it's difficult to find the proofs of that he was in the OSS. And his sister, Burbie Brown, was born in Nuremberg. And guess who also came from Nuremberg? Another famous American, also of the entertainment industry, where they do the social engineering on the minds of our children. From another military family. Oh look, there she is, Sandra Bullock. They're all from the military industrial complex in the entertainment industry, whether it be music or Hollywood films. Yeah, she was born 1964, and her father, who was in charge of the Army's military postal service in Europe, was stationed in Nuremberg, just as where the sister of Jackson Brown, where she was born, probably at the same time, right? When he met her mother, her parents married in Germany. Bullock's maternal grandfather was a German rocket scientist from Nuremberg. Oh, talking about the paperclip project Paperclip. The family returned to Arlington, where her father worked with the Army Material Command. All key positions, you know, Army Material Command is a key position. The Army's military postal service is. And you all remember where the World Postal Service are. They are in Bern, Switzerland. I made a video about that in my channel, Hatzefatz. Before becoming a contractor for the Pentagon. And for those who don't know what a contractor is, a contractor has made a contract, you know, for a certain period. So he's not really working for the Pentagon. But, you know, if he gets killed somewhere in the world, like there were a lot of contractors in former special forces, like in Iraq and Afghanistan, they got 10 times higher wages than a normal soldier. But they are expendable, you know, and it doesn't make any political scandals in the newspapers like there's an American soldier killed, because there are no American soldiers. They are a contractor. The Russians, they use them as well in the genocide almost on the Chechen people. In Russian they call them kontraktniki. They were the worst. And the Russians, even killers and all that, they took them out of prisons so they could go and continue to kill children and women in Chechnya. That was Mr. Putin behind this. He's a very dangerous man, Mr. Putin. He's not as nice, you know, as he looks like, with, you know, telling all his jokes and all that. He's behind killing many children and women in Chechnya, using the kontraktniki. So he was a contractor, it says, contractor for the Pentagon. So it means he was a Pentagon assassin. I mean, that's it. A contractor is an assassin. So again, Sandra Bullock, also military industrial complex. There's a link to Nuremberg. She lived for 12 years. Bullock was raised in Nuremberg and grew up speaking German. She speaks perfect German. And she was in the Steiner school, the Waldorf school, just as my children were in. Jerry Beckley of the band America, America. His father was the commander of the United States Air Force Base Ruislip near London in England, where he met the other band members, Dan Peake and Dewey Burnell, who were, of course, also sons of career Air Force officers. Oh, no wonder they called the band America. Huh? It's all propaganda. Look, already in these days they're doing the devil's horns. See? Already back then. There he is, Jerry Beckley, born in 1952, and a founding member of the band America. There they are. And an American father and an English mother. And in 1967, Beckley's father became the commander of the United States Air Force Base at West Ruislip. So that's, I mean, that's a high grade, yeah. At least you'll be a colonel, usually a colonel to be the commander of a base. So they're all their fathers, all high officers, admirals, generals, CIA, OSS, Army Intelligence, even the commander of a United States Air Force base. So where this guy grew up, and where of course he met the other members of the group. And so this is all part of the octagon. Michael Nesmith of the Monkees inherited the family fortune of $25 million, and he served in the US Air Force. So that's him. Maybe you remember the Monkees. Hey, hey, I'm the Monkees. So here it says he enlisted in the US Air Force and complete basic training at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio. Was trained as an aircraft mechanic at Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita Falls, and was permanently stationed at the Sherman Air Force Base near Burns Flat in Oklahoma. The band name, the Monkees. Remember what I told you about Planet of the Apes in my brachycephalic craniometry film. Here's the title, and this is the channel. Why the name the Monkees? It's a bit strange, isn't it? Well, as a group or a person, you don't want to be referred to as being a monkey, do you know? So, well, you see there are 4 of them for the concept of 4, and he's holding up 3 fingers, him as well. So it does say the concept of 3 and the concept of 4, and it says square and compass. Graham Parsons of the Flying Burrito Brothers, his father was Air Force Major Cecil Ingram, nicknamed Coon Dog. Here he is, Graham Parsons, the musician. They were all the heroes of the 60s and the 70s, and yeah, the Flying Burrito Brothers. And yeah, Graham's father, Ingram Connor II, was a famous World War II flying ace decorated with the Air Medal, who was present at the 1941 attack on Pearl Harbor. Yeah, his name was Coon Dog. The name of the band is a reference to the Templar fraternity here, flying for the Air Force, like the Flying Brothers or the Flying Fraternity. So, in fact, Americans sing about love and peace, and simultaneously murder millions all over the world. They even call it Vietnam War music, the sound of a murderous nation. Jimi Hendrix was a paratrooper of the 101st US Airborne. He died at 27, so he belongs to the club of 27. And he would have probably lived longer if he would have stayed in the regular army as a regular soldier, instead of becoming a music soldier for them. There he is. And so this is Wikipedia, and here it says military service. He was in the 101st Airborne Division at Fort Campbell. Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison were both great fans of Aleister Crowley, the English Satanist who had a temple in Sicily. Alan Wilson of Canned Heat died at 27, together with the others of the Club of 27, and all of them related to Laurel Canyon, the Pentagon setup. So here you can see him, Alan Wilson of the band Canned Heat. There they are, playing. And here it says he died at 27. Why did they all die at 27? And there is a reason for that, which I will explain to you. Well, because the 27th degree in Scottish Rite Freemasonry is being symbolized by a pentagram, the thing Satanists use. The 27th degree's name is the Night of the Sun. Therefore, 60's songs like The House of the Rising Sun. And it's here where all the higher degrees start, which all have Templar symbols, starting with the 28th Knight Commander of the Temple. It is therefore here one can see that Freemasonry comes out of the Knights Templars, who still rule over Freemasonry, which is in fact still a military order. Therefore, all the death at 27, because the 27th degree, where the military degrees start, stands for the Pentagon, or a pentagram, who are behind the 60s hippie era of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Circle closed. We can all see this thing is pentagonal. 5. Penta, it means 5 in Greek, so there are 5 corners. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. And this is where the whole hippie era music era where it came from. And that's why you almost see the hippie symbol here, except these two here don't belong to it, but this here is exactly the hippie symbol here. You know, this is a square here, and instead of with these ones here, there's a circle. You know, this is where they took it from, right? The hippie symbol, because it says square, and here's a compass, you know, where they walk around just like in Mecca or whatever. You know, you see them almost. You see the persons walking around here, and this looks like a black cube almost. You know, so there are too many references. You know where it all comes from, and I can guarantee you that this is it. You know, pentagonal, just like it's 27th degree in Freemasonry. And here you can see, if you take that and that away, you see the hippie symbol here. Not a coincidence, people. They always leave a sign or a symbol or a reference somewhere. They just, you know, it's too strong for them. You know, they just have to do it. It's compulsory. It's compulsive. You know. So this is what we saw inside the Pentagon. I mean, this symbol is integrated inside the court of the Pentagon. Only there's one more lane here, one more here, and this is pentagonal. But there is a circle inside, but this is definitely in there. And why does it always have to be a Volkswagen? You know, it's a Nazi car developed by the Nazis. It means das Volk, ein Wagen für das Volk. It's a car for the people. Why always Volkswagen? Well, paperclip, people. The Nazis won the war, and they took over the Pentagon. The Swiss Octagon rules over Pentagon. I made a film about it with this title, a long film, but YouTube took it off. It was on my channel Giureh. Too bad. So here once more, this is the Pentagon in the United States. So it's the arrows going to number 27, the Night of the Sun, the House of the Rising Sun. So from here on, it's rising here, and they're all Templar symbols. This is the House of the Rising Sun, number 27. And this is interesting. Here it says Noachite of Prussian Knight. You remember the brachycephalic skull form of the Prussians. And this is because of the Teutonic Knights, because the Teutonic Knights area, it became Prussia, with the same sort of Swiss military mentality. And just have a good look at these ones here. You know, he has a double-headed eagle here, a double birdie, and here's sort of a crown on it. But have a good look at this, and these, and this, and this, and this, because I'm going to show that to you now. So there are like 4 T's, 1, 2, 3, 4, and here as well. Just remind you of this. So this is why they all died at 27, and I'm not sure if they died, and if they died, if they did die, it was a satanic ritual. related to the Knights Templars and the Freemasons. So above the Pentagon, that's why they chose the name Pentagon for the US military. They're all military grades here. And below it's more esoteric stuff here, you know, with the key and the key to wisdom and, you know, the square, the compass here, triangles. But from the Pentagon upwards, it becomes all military, because the Maltese Order and some Knights Templars and Teutonic Knights Orders, they have this symbol as well. Just remind you, I'm going to show it to you now. So as we're closing the circle, we're back in Sicily with the Kingdom of Two Sicilies, and this is their coat of arms. And here you see this symbol in it, which I asked you to remember. So we're back, you know, Jim Morrison and Aleister Crowley and Jimi Hendrix all believing in this. And so we're back in Sicily and like closing the circle. And they've got some more. This is all the Kingdom of Two Sicilies, but then in a different place, you know. This is Naples here, and this is Regno di Sicilia. But it's this I wanted to show you. Here, there we are. Well, of course, here's an octagon, which is the Kingdom of Two Sicilies, Contado di Molise. So it's you know, for each province they have a different one, and the big one it combines them all. So here's that symbol, you know, the 28th grade. And of course, this is a square. So now we are back closing the circle. We're back in Sicily, and where Aleister Crowley had his temple, the Knights Templars, which is the Pentagon, the Nazi Templars, octagon, and Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison believing in Aleister Crowley, who was in Sicily and who died at the age of 27, which is the Pentagon. So we're all getting back to this this symbol here with the 4 T's, or the Tau symbol actually. There's nothing which is a coincidence. Absolutely nothing. Singer Phil Ochs did Staunton Military Academy, and it has been said that he was CIA. Here, Phil Ochs. There he is, a musician. And here it shows from 1956 to 1958. Ochs was a student at the Staunton Military Academy in rural Virginia. So it looks like it, you know, either by their parents or in a naval academy or being in the army, they get discovered as musicians. So they get drafted by the Pentagon to become music soldiers. I guess that's what happened. So his father Jack was drafted in the army in World War II, where he treated soldiers, the Battle of the Bulge. But okay, I mean, many more people had to go into the war. But this guy went freely to the Staunton Military Academy, where of course they have a good look at their students, how they can use them, and if they have music in this era when they had musical abilities or talents. It opened all the way by the Pentagon, but they made him die at 27. The Pentagon, the 27 Pentagon. There were, additionally to this all, many curious deaths around Laurel Canyon, which of course I can't tell you all, but quite a lot apparently. A lot of sacrifices going on. The father of actor Peter Fonda was a decorated US Naval Intelligence officer during World War II, and when Peter was 10, his mother, Frances Ford Seymour, was found dead with a sliced throat. Then 8 months later, Father Frank married again to Susan Blanchard for just a year to dump her for the Italian Countess of Dera Franchetti, a consultant of Italian dictator Mussolini, called Il Duce, meaning the Duke. Well, that goes well together with the Countess of Dera Franchetti. So here about early life. Here it says Henry Fonda and his wife Frances Ford Seymour. They say their mother committed suicide. They don't say about the sliced throat. I don't think a woman would commit suicide with this, by slicing her throat. And they found her. Nobody knows that it was a suicide. Okay, that's the internet. So here's his father. He made videos or films like Jezebel. Well, you need a certain knowledge, to make a video, a film, a Hollywood film called Jezebel. Because Jezebel is a demon. It's called the sex demon. Like this guy here, marrying one woman after the other, going for the counters, and his wives being found with a sliced throat. All these things Jezebel actually does. And you can see where he was in the United States Navy. Here. He was later commissioned as a lieutenant junior grade in air combat intelligence. After being discharged from active duty due to an overage in rank, Fonda was transferred to the Naval Reserve, serving another 3 years. Another one. They're all in the naval intelligence, being admirals, generals. It's very suspicious. So this is still Wikipedia of Henry Fonda here, the father of Peter Fonda. And later in 1950, Fonda married Susan Blanchard, his mistress. She was 21 years old. And then she dumped her. And in 1957, Fonda married the Italian Baroness Abdera Franchetti, or Franchetti. I don't know how to say this. There. Abdera Franchetti, born July 8, 1931, is an Italian baroness, descendant from an old jaywalker family of Venice, which intermarried with the Rothschild family, and who eventually converted to Roman Catholicism. She's most famous for being the fourth wife of American actor Henry Fonda. So you see, there's jaywalker nobility. All peoples have nobility, and they're all pharaohs. And she was apparently a consultant of the Italian dictator Mussolini. And remember how the Swiss made Mussolini, who lived 2 years in Swaziland before the war, where the Swiss taught him and making all the contacts there in the motherland of it all. So there's a picture of him, Mussolini, and here he emigration to Switzerland. 1902, Mussolini, he emigrated to Swaziland, and he was in Fribourg, Bern. He was a stonemason. Well, I guess he was also another sort of a mason. Eh? He even met Vladimir Lenin. Look at that. He was also in Switzerland for 20 years at least. They all were. And well, you can read it yourself. This is the base of it all. Eh? They own the Pentagon. The father of actor Dennis Hopper was in the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, in Burma, China and India during World War II. So here's Wikipedia, Dennis Hopper. There he is, Mr. Hopper. And this is about his father here. And his James Millett Hopper was his father, and his father was a post office manager, having previously served in the Office of Strategic Services, the precursor to the Central Intelligence Agency in World War II in China and in Burma. So, and it's quite possible that after the war he was still working for the CIA as well, which is what they normally do. Sharon Tate here, the wife of the Polish jaywalker pedophile Roman Polanski, got murdered by the Manson family, and her father was Lieutenant Colonel Paul Tate, of the US Army intelligence. So here Sharon Tate, Shah On, Sar it means the king, and On it means Osiris. There she is, or there she was. And here it says Sharon Tate was born on January 24th, 1943, Texas, the eldest of 3 daughters to Colonel Paul James Tate, a United States Army officer, and his wife Doris Gwendolyn, born Willett. The family are of English, Scottish, Swiss French and Swiss German descent. Well, maybe that's why Polanski, the pedophile, is hiding in Swaziland. I went filming and I rang at the door. It's in my channel Gatsefrats. You can look it up. And yeah, that's probably why he's hiding there. He's a convicted pedophile, by the way. Paul Tate, he's 82 now, or there was at least in 2005. A former Army intelligence officer who went undercover seeking clues to the murder of daughter Sharon Tate by the followers of Charles Manson, died of congestive heart failure Wednesday at a convalescent home in Coupeville, Washington. Sharon Tate was among 5 people killed at her Benedict Canyon estate, well, we all know, and she was married to director Roman Polanski. So he was a former Army intelligence officer. Paul Tate, the father of Sharon Tate. Again, another one. The papas and the mamas. Singer Emmylou Harris, her father, was a US Marine Corps officer living next to the Woodbridge Army Research and Development Laboratories. Here's Emmylou Harris, there she is with a big guitar. And here it says, Harris is from a career military family. Her father, Walter Rutland Harris, was a Marine Corps officer, and her mother, Eugenia, was a wartime military wife. Her father was reported missing in action in Korea in 1952 and spent 10 months as a prisoner of war. Born in Birmingham, Alabama, Harris spent her childhood in North Carolina and Woodbridge. So in Woodbridge was the Army Research and Development Laboratories. Singer John Denver, real name Henry John Deutschendorf, which is a German name. Deutsch, it means German, and Dorf, it means a village, a German village. So John Denver, his father, was a career US Air Force officer at the famous Roswell Air Base. Well, you all know about the aliens at Roswell. And here it's the early life. Henry John Deutschendorf Jr. was born on December 31, 1943 in Roswell, New Mexico, to Captain Henry John Deutschendorf, a United States Army Air Force pilot. So he must have been an officer. You're not a pilot if you're not an officer. At Roswell Army Airfield, and his wife Emma Louise née Swope. And he spent his youth in a lot of Air Force bases, like this one. So they all look like little toys, all the airplanes. He was a singer here. And the Maxwell Air Force Base, the Carswell Air Force Base in Fort Worth. And so, you know, enough time and place, you know, to get discovered for their 60 Music project. The town of Denver in Colorado was settled by Swiss immigrants. Denver as in John Denver. And here are some more. You can see some more towns here that are even Lucerne Valley. And these are Swiss Americans by percentage of the total population. Like in New Bern, 30% here. 30% of the population are Swiss. And this one here. Swiss Americans by numbers. There are 8,000 in New York. And 117,000 in California. I'll show you the bigger picture in a minute. So this is the Swiss Americans website from Wikipedia, and you see there are 1 million Swiss Americans in the US. That's 0.28% of the US population, but they all go for all the key positions. So this is interesting. Here's the history about it. You know, the Theobald von Erlach, it's the nobility from Bern. They probably didn't like it very much, and I was in Bern when I started talking about that, right? And there's also von Grafenried. Well, they're not even in it. They should be. And yeah, in California there are 117,000 Swiss Americans. Pennsylvania 73,000. I guess there are more Swiss Americans or Swiss in the United States than there are jaywalkers. And I've shown you they have taken over far many more key positions than the jaywalkers did. I don't know of any jaywalker president, but I already mentioned 3 or 4 of them who are Swiss. So, facts, people, facts. Community settled by Swiss immigrants. There's a lot of Berns in Bernville. Swiss American historical societies. And of course the Mennonites. Notable people. So for a more comprehensive list, see list of Swiss Americans. Okay, well, let's have a look. List of Swiss Americans. And there's a lot of actors. What is it? Oh, Robert Downey Jr., mother of Swiss descent. James Caviezel also, paternal grandfather. Even Jeff Bridges. Whoa. Yul Brynner. Well, I knew that. Well, his name is Swiss, you know, Brunner. And Meryl Streep, of course. Renée Zellweger, which is a Swiss name. Writers, musicians. Leon Botstein. So this is Steinsy, who is Swiss. Governors and presidents. Herbert Hoover, Eisenhower, Obama. I already got 3 who are Swiss. I don't know any jaywalker presidents in the US. I don't know. I don't think there were any. So Herbert Hoover here. Swiss. His real name, Huber. J. Edgar Hoover, Swiss. Yeah. Henri Bouquet, and Henry Wirtz. Yeah, the Confederate soldier executed for war crimes. And a prominent Henri Bouquet, a prominent army officer in the French and Indian War and the Pontiac's War. Of course, religion. Scientists. Albert Einstein, well, not really Swiss, he was born in Germany. He just lived in Switzerland. Rickenbacker, the guitar. And of course, Chevrolet. He was Swiss. I don't see him. No Chevrolet. Sports here. Oh, here. Oh, he's under sports. Louis Chevrolet. He was Swiss. Well, etc., etc. Nancy Hross was the girlfriend of singer David Crosby. She had a child with Graham Persons, and her father was a captain in the RAF, the Royal Air Force. And she finally married the grandson of Eleanor Roosevelt, the same family as the president.